Welcome to my class. We're going to paint this beautiful cardinal that I found on Unsplash. And I'm using my little paint set. It's a Lucas paint set and whatever colors came with it. And I might have refilled a few of them with two paints. I really don't know. And I'm going to use, I like my Princeton watercolor brushes. And my pad is 100% cotton watercolor pad. And I'm just going to start by, I usually wet my pan paints with a spray bottle, and I have my water there. I have one water container that is for, washing your brush off, and another one for clear water. I always do that when I paint with my watercolors. And I pre-drew my my cardinal here. I just drew it in there. I didn't trace it. And I'm just gonna kind of make some of my pencil lines a little lighter because they will show through. You might want them to show through. I kind of like that style sometimes, but by all means, this is my technique of painting, and I just kind of do it naturally. So it's by years of practice. So I hope the techniques you learn from me you can incorporate into your own practice. And I love to see what you do. So leave a comment below and like and subscribe because I really love teaching and I want to continue making these watercolor classes for you. So I grabbed some of my yellow. I have a lemon yellow and I have one that's more intense next to it. And I'm just going to fill in the beak area, and I'm going to just put a wet wash of the yellow all over the bird because I feel like the undercoat of the cardinal looks very bright and yellow when the sun hits it, and he's kind of like orangey red and a crimson red. So there's a lot of reds involved in the this watercolor, and I never like to use like a flat color. I always like to use multiple colors, and I like to mix the colors right on the paper a lot of times with a wet on wet wash. And I think it's just a beautiful trait of the watercolors to have that, undercoat just shining through of these beautiful colors. And the other thing to know about watercolors is that this color right now is very intense, I'm noticing, so I'm going to tone it back, but usually it dries a lot lighter than what you see while it's wet. I always want it to look wet all the time because it's so vibrant when it's wet, but it does really dry to a lighter shade. I would say, it's about 30% lighter than your initial wash that you put down. So yeah, you learn this as you go along, how much water to put in. Now, I don't want this dripping wet. I just want it to be kind of a damp wetness. So I'm just going around and adding this yellow all over where, his chest, and like everywhere there's kind of a highlight, or you're going to see some of that yellow shining through. Colors in this set, and probably most sets, it's like a yellow orange. I'm sorry, a red orange color, and then a bright red color. And I think they're both cadmiums, but I don't know for sure because I haven't looked at the colors exactly on the set in a while. It's been about 6 months. I don't remember. So, but what I'm doing here is I'm taking more of that lighter color because you always work light to dark in watercolors. So I mixed these colors up with a little bit of water. So they're kind of like a tea. They're not super watery and they're not super light. They're kind of still intense. And I'm just dropping it all over the bird wherever I see, kind of the darker red. I'm going to really try to leave this yellow to shine through the feathers that we're going to create. the impression that this bird has feathers. It's all impression through your marks. And this technique is mine. I don't even know how I did it. It's just trial and error, like years of practice. So I really love painting animals. I have a real connection with animals all my life. And these cardinals are usually in my backyard. Like every winter, I see them, and they come in pairs. They're so amazing. So you should sit and watch them, and not only watch them because they're so beautiful, but if you're going to paint birds, it's really great to just actually look at the actual animal if you can. So keep a pair of binoculars and get like a nice bird feeder, and I'm sure they will come around, especially the winter, because they do winter over. And they're always with their mate, which is a wonderful thing too. And I've seen them create the nest, and the bird that creates the nest the most is the male, not the female. He actually builds it for the female, and he's very territorial. They're just amazing animals and so beautiful. So I just went around and I dropped in my orangey red all over the place where I see intense reds, because we're going to go back and we're going to glaze over and over again on this to create, just these layers of feathers. And I'm being really careful here. I'm putting in pretty light on the wing area here. I'm just keep looking at your photo, your reference, and seeing where you want to put the intense red and where two things connect. Now remember, if you put water down, the color will spread into that. So you always want to have, if you want to confine an area, just wet that one area, and the water should just go right up to that and not go into the dry area at all. But I can get very impatient sometimes because I really don't have a lot of time to paint. So watercolor, you need patience. I guess it's a way to teach yourself patience, but you need to let it dry a lot completely before you go on to the next glazing, because if you don't, it's just going to run into that area and you're going to be like, oh, no, I just ruined my painting. But you know what? I do it all the time and I end up fixing it. It's never really ruined. So unless you drop like dark green on top of like yellow or something. Some of the colors too, I have to say, are very staining, where you can't even lift them off. And a lot of the greens are like that, and you'll find that out too as you paint. And I think this red orange color as well is more of a staining color and not so much a color that will lift off easily, because I like to lift sometimes too. I'll put down a color and then I'll make it really intense, and then I'll wet the area again and lift up some color to bring back like a highlight or something. And it's just a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy my classes. And I love to teach. So, if you like my class, please subscribe, hit that subscribe button. I would love to teach more and more classes, and the more people I get on my YouTube to subscribe, the more I can create and spend time making these classes. So once I have my little initial washes down and I kind of have an idea of where I'm going to, you know, bring up my glazes, I like to bring the darkest dark of the painting. I do this almost in all of my paintings because you just can't figure out what your medium values are if you don't already have your lightest light and your darkest dark. So you kind of are always comparing with those two values. So here, Cardinal has that beautiful black mask on his face. And I wonder why he has that. I wonder if it's like a reflection thing, sort of like football players, but it's pretty cool. And I really love the tuft on his head. I think that's really awesome too. He's just a beautiful bird. So I'm going in here, and my blacks, I don't like to have a pure black. There is black in my palette there, but I did mix it with a little purple and a little blue. And you can mix brown and blue together to make a, kind of a dark gray color. Um, I usually love to have Payne's Gray. This palette does not have Payne's Gray. I do have a tube of it, but I didn't put any in there. But I did mix blue and purple into my actual black to give it more of a richness. Because black is pretty flat and it doesn't have a lot of life to it. And I don't want it to look dead. I want it to look alive and vibrant. So I'm just going to speed up this section where I'm adding the black because this tape is going to be too long, and I like to speed things up. So all you're doing is filling in that area that you penciled in there of the black, and I'm feathering, literally feathering, pushing my little brush tip out to create those little tiny looks of, there's like feathers there. So just very tiny little, pushing it out with your brush. And then I added the black of the eye, but then I realized I came back with brown and filled it in and put that pupil back in again. All right, so now I mixed the red that we have there with green, of all things, the complement of red. Because when you mix the complement with a color, you get a really good middle tone value, which is great, you know, like a gray color. So this is going to be our shadow area, and we're just trying to keep it really analogous um, and just really cohesive color wise. And that is the natural choice, to always add your complement to a color for your shadow areas. You don't want to add black so much. I mean, you can, people do, but in my mind, nature doesn't paint with black. It paints with color, and it paints with complements and harmonies and color. So in nature, um, you'll always see complements of colors together, and I really like to go by that. I'm using my brush tip to create these little feather marks. They're just little lines to the tip of your brush, and they're going in the direction of the feather. So really observe in your reference photo the direction of those little feather lines. Really observe. And you know what? I have to say, sometimes I do 3 paintings before I'm happy with my final painting. This time I did not. Today I just did one. I just went for it, and I was pretty happy with the results. But it's just paper. So if you want to use Canson paper, the one that's not 100%, I think it's XL, and just practice your little strokes. Practice, you know, just put a wash down, and then when that dries, put a glaze over it, and practice these little strokes to make feathers with your brush. Now, I have to say, the better the brush you have, the better the results. And the better the paint you have, the better the results. And the better the paper you have, the better the results. The Canson paper, it is great. I love it for practice work, and I even love it for the finished art. But when I do a painting that I want to keep or use, um, or I want the best results, I'm going to use my 100% cotton paper for this. Now I have a few different companies here. Most people use Arches, and I love Arches. That was my go-to brand. But what I did was I was trying to find a less expensive one, and I found this one. I think it's called Leyton, Leyton. I'm pretty sure I got it from Amazon. It's cold pressed, acid free. There's only 20 sheets, 100% cotton, and it's 160 pound. Usually it's 140, so this is slightly thicker. And I really love it. I think it's got a good color, it's got a good texture. I like it a lot. So now I'm stroking along here, and I'm adding little feathery lines, and I'm adding my darks to the dark side of the bird on the back of his wings here. And we're just going to keep glazing all the way down with these little strokes. And you don't need them everywhere. So it's like an impression of feathers. We're not painting every single feather. I mean, some people do, and it's very time consuming. So I feel like my illustrations are kind of a combination of realism and also, I think they're more impressionistic. I would say that my style is impressionistic because I give the impression of leaves and or the feathers or whatever, without painting every single detail. I mean, you got a photo there. You can take a photo. You can paint exactly like the photo, but I feel that your hand and your style and you should shine through your painting, even the drawing. That's why I don't trace the drawing. I draw it on my own because I'll draw something a little bit different than what the bird really, my interpretation of it, and it should be your interpretation of it. And yes, copy my style and you can copy me exactly, but that's the way you learn how to, you know, use these techniques for your style and your voice, and how you should shine through your artwork. And that's what I love teaching. I love when I teach a class, everybody comes in and everybody gets the same direction, and everybody's painting is different and just beautiful. And I'm so excited to see that. I just absolutely love to see the diversity and how everybody thinks and how everybody interprets their paintings. Okay, so I just sped this up a little bit so you're not bored to tears and you just jump off my channel. I would love it if you watched the whole thing, and I appreciate you being here very much. I started this during the pandemic because my hours were cut at my job in half, and I just wanted to do something to uplift and teach, and I just really love to share. And I had put it on hold now for a little while because I have been actually looking for work. And then I decided maybe I should just focus on my channel. I don't know. But I appreciate having you here and watching. Thank you so much. And I think that's what I really want to do is grow my channel and try to make this how I make my living. And I love doing it. So, and I love to just give back. And all of this is free for you guys. So I hope you really enjoy it. And you should ask me, ask me a question. What would you like me to paint in the future? There's so many watercolor beautiful painters out there that I watch myself. I'm always learning from everybody, and you can watch any one of them. So when you're here, I just really appreciate that you came here. Um, yeah, here I'm just showing you a little close up, and that it is actually probably not really wet, it's just damp. There goes a motorcycle. And I'm just adding these little tick marks because as it dries, that all those little tick marks you make are just kind of going to blend together. As long as that paper is wet, it's going to keep blending. So if you like where something is, you might want to get a dryer out and dry it really quick, because it just keeps going until that paper is dry. This wing was probably on the dry side, so I started putting in the lines of those long feathers on the wings, on that back wing. And you can see I left a space there because it's got to dry in between. So I'm always conscious of what area is dry and what area is wet. And now I'm going back and working on the beak a little bit. I'm just going to drop in some orange and just try to get some form into this beak. the back wing has dried a lot, so after I'm done dropping in more color around the beak area, I'm going to go fill in that white spot, and then I'm just going to continue yet again to go over the whole bird with glazes of little fine strokes. And if I want to add a shaded area, I will add the dark color, like I'll just drop it down, and then I will feather it out with some water on the other side. So if you're going to put a dark color up to the edge of like that wing, so I'm going to drop in like a darker color next to that wing. It's going to be completely dry at this time. Then I'm going to drop in that color and then add some water, clean off my brush and add some water to it so it feathers it out. But you don't add a lot of water, you just add a teeny bit of water to just help it along so you don't have a harsh edge. And then I'll just start making little tick marks with my brush to create the feathers. Sometimes I start painting and I think, wow, this is a mess. This doesn't look right. What do I do? What do I do? And I just keep going. I don't really worry about a mistake because, like I said before, you learn as you paint. You learn a lot, and you don't really make mistakes as much down the road, but you still do make mistakes, and it's just paper. So I can just do it again. And I know paper is expensive, but when you've been doing it a while, you really won't make as many mistakes as you would in the beginning. And that's why you should try and practice on the Canson paper. Do a whole painting on it. And then when you're confident, do the same exact painting on the good paper, the more expensive paper, and you will see a huge difference. You'll feel like, I don't want to use the Canson paper, because you really kind of struggle with it because you want it to perform. And when you're used to painting on a good surface, you think it's going to perform a certain way. And when you go back to the cheaper surface, it doesn't perform and you kind of get frustrated. So I'm like, I'm just gonna use my good paper from now on, because I mean, I do love the Canson. I do use it. I'm not gonna lie, I do use it. But once you're used to something, that's better quality and it performs so well, going back to the cheaper brand is the cheaper paint or the cheaper paper. It just, you struggle with it. You cannot get the results that you've achieved using better quality products. If you're serious about painting and you want to, continue painting, ask, ask people to help you for Christmas or your birthday or Hanukkah, whatever you do. If you give presents, if somebody wants to give you a present, say, I would really love it if, I had a gift card to the art supply store, or I'll show you what I want on Amazon. I would love that. And every time I use it, I'll think of you. So that would be cool. And, sometimes art supplies can be quite pricey. But the other thing is, the cheaper art supplies don't last. The more expensive art supplies actually go a long way. So I've had my paints for years. And I feel like I hardly, use them, but then I want to buy something new or try a new brand or something like that. So I really have enough watercolors to last through hundreds of paintings right now. But you'll find that you use more colors more than other colors as well. So like here, I'm going to use up all my red and on this Cardinal. But no, you could see that I really didn't use hardly any, and I had hardly any left in my palette over there. So it really does go a long way when it's a really good quality paint, because the cheaper paints have a lot of gum arabic in it, and the fillers where isn't that coming out really pretty? That's really coming out good. And it's not as vibrant color. They'll use maybe a synthetic type of dye in there to create that color. It won't be like a pure pigment. So you're just like I said, you're going to struggle with it. So my recommendation is Cotman. The Cotman line of paints is, you know, the Winsor and Newton student grade. And I have to say, those are really good student grade type brand of paint to start with. And I will even use cotton. I will use it like as a travel paint too, because if I lose it, I won't be so upset. But you can get a little palette for like $50 or $60, or maybe even $30. You just can, you don't need a lot of colors too to start. You only need a few colors, you know, the primary colors and black and white. I don't always use white, so I'll use the ink white. It's like it's an ink with acrylic in it just to get some highlights up, or gouache white, which is titanium white. And don't use it that much. I like to use the white of the paper, but sometimes you just need to add a little bit of white, and it's not a crime. And it really enhances your painting. And the other thing you can use is a colored pencil. So Prismacolor pencil, whatever pencil you have, um, colored pencil, you can literally add on top of the watercolor as another glaze, and that sometimes works amazing, especially if you need some really fine detail work. So if you're illustrating for a company or something, that was literally the way people illustrated back in the day, like 30 years ago when I started out. If I did a strawberry painting or something for like a tea company, um, or the water company, um, you would start off with a watercolor, and then I would go in with colored pencil and put in all the little fine details because it was just a great layering effect. So as you can see, I just keep layering and layering my glazes. I'm building up these little feathers, and I'm gonna mix some blue, like a sky blue, and my painting is dry at this time, and I'm going to just push it right up to the edge. This is what I was talking about before, where you're just gonna push that color right up to the edge of the bird, and I'm going to add water to feather it out and make it look like, you know, the sky, and it's just like a little blob of color behind the bird. It looks really pretty. It just makes him pop too. That blue is just going to bring out that red and make it look more red. And you know, if you wanted to make it look like he was in the forest, you might use green. You might make some drops of red back there to look like berries, and it'll be like blurred in the background. Use your creativity, and you know, just explore and have fun. I was painting away, and I looked up to my camera and I realized that my memory card was full and it stopped recording. So I did go back and darken around the eyes. I added more black, and literally you're just going over the whole bird a little bit at a time and adjusting shapes and adding shadows and using, you know, wet on dry and wet on wet. And I'm just adding my details at the very end. You're just going to keep adding little details in. You don't add the details in the beginning. You're always adding them at the end. So, and I thought that maybe I needed to darken some areas. Really look at your image and your reference, and you really want to have that contrast there. So if you need to add another glaze of dark, go ahead. Now here are more lines for the tip of the wings to bring that out and just show each feather. And I'm going to darken up around where there's little feather tufts around the top of his wing, and just try to keep building that up. And in the very end, I did take some of my white ink and I added it to a very slight amount of the orangey red. And I went in after everything was dry, and I used the tip of this number, I think 6 brush. It has a very fine tip on it. I love it. And I just added more very fine lines to show those little tips of the feathers that are kind of downy looking on the bird. And it just brings it, like this photo does not do this painting justice. It's really pretty in person. I don't feel like it got the detail in that you can see here. But it is really pretty, and I'm kind of proud of it. It came out really well, and I'm happy to teach this to you. So enjoy, and I'm going to let you go for the rest of this video. Thank you for joining me, and leave a comment what you would like me to paint, because I will try my best to accommodate you any way you would like as far as a painting idea. If I can do it, I will try. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.